So, yeah, last time we chatted, we had not yet had a mutiny. We had not had a football game, nor a Patriots captain getting arrested for assault charges and one drug charge. Boy, this has been a dumb 4 days. Okay, it is Monday night. We are recording as we always do, solo here to Monday. Hopefully you're having a beer. I am not tonight. I'm going to give you a little sugar. We're going to start with dessert for breakfast, not dinner for breakfast, okay? Not breakfast for dinner. We're going to go straight to the sweet stuff. What do you want to hear about? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to know when the team stinks and they're on the 4-game losing streak? You want to talk about Drake Maye. And we're all excited for Drake Maye. And you're probably listening going, is Callahan finally coming around? Is he finally going to admit the kid should play? No, I'm not. But I will tell you this. His time's coming. I would bet almost anything at this point that Drake Maye will be starting for your New England Patriots within the next 3 to 4 weeks, because one of two things had to happen for Jacoby Brissett to hand the reins over to the kid who's the number 3 overall pick. The reason basically you're watching the rest of this godforsaken season if the Patriots keep playing like they did on Sunday. He either had to indisputably lose the job by losing games for the team like we've seen the last 2 weeks. He was bad again, just like against the Niners, he was against the Dolphins, and or the situation stabilizes around him in which you go, okay, this is safe and this is fine. And that does not happen because the Patriots offensive line, again, allowed a pressure rate north of 40%. This is still a passing game is really a game of flip a coin. If it comes up heads and you're the quarterback, that's Patriots trying to pass the ball right now. Anyway, separate from that, Brissett is losing the job. That's happening. Number 2, as bad as it's looked, they're problem solving. They're finding things in a way that should be able to help Drake Maye, because the coaching staff goes, okay, we know what we have. We know who we need to play. We know where the holes are. We can plug them. Right now for the offensive line, yeah, Miami's defense is not very good. You only had one offensive lineman who was a real problem in pass protection. That was Nick Leverett. So if that's ever the case, you feel okay. Every team has that 1-0 lineman where you go, okay, he needs a little extra help in pass protection. We'll give it to him. Not to mention the Patriots running game, A, is back. B, is back in a way that helps the whole offense, because it's back with their outside zone scheme, which you heard me talk over and over and over again, right, in the spring and the summer. All the linemen going in one direction laterally, okay? Running back makes a read, one cut and go. Reminder Stevenson's 33-yard touchdown. Yeah, there was a pulling guard because it was pin and pull, which is a variation of what? Outside zone. That's his longest run of the game. The only touchdown was off of outside zone. Antonio Gibson, who started, got the first 4 snaps, because that's the punishment nowadays for 4 fumbles. He also had his longest run off of outside zone, 24 yards. So the running game and the pieces are coming around it, not just in pass protection for the most part, except for Nick Leverett. We'll get to him later. The running game is establishing in a way the Patriots need that, because most of their play action game is built off of that outside zone. All the bootlegs, all the movement throws, where Jacoby Brissett actually finally had one of these plays develop where Alex Van Pelt called a shot play, and it wasn't blitz to smithereens or throwing into 2 deep safeties. Brissett overthrew it, but those are starting to get unlocked. Not to mention they have settled on a receiver rotation. We're going to see a lot more Jalen Polk, a lot more Demario Douglas. KJ Osborne was out. Kendrick Bourne is back. I think Bourne is going to keep that job, and said today he can play a full game in probably about 2 weeks. So the offense is getting there. The last thing I'll say is this. If you still want Drake Maye right now, I get it. I know why. You don't have to explain it to me. You're sick of watching Brissett. You want to see the kid. All of those reasons start with I. To which I would say, that's kind of selfish. And that's fine. You're entitled to that. But me, as the New England Patriots, don't yet give a damn about your entertainment. They don't give a damn about my entertainment as a media member. What they want is their future of the franchise to become just that. This kid who has all the hopes and the dreams, not just the players and the coaches, but ownership and a whole region, they need him to get to his potential. And they might say, okay, we got Houston coming in. Yeah, Jacoby's not been very good. And we might have a better shot with Drake. But if we can wait a week, we can trade out a Houston defense that's going to roll in after being top 5 by DVOA before this past weekend. Then allow just 9 completions to Josh Allen in a win over the Bills. And we could trade that out for the NFL's worst defense by DVOA, second worst by EPA, and bottom 5 in scoring, because that's in London. That's the Jaguars. We can give this a week, let Brissett dig his own grave, or get us to a surprise win and buy some more time, and we still figure out everything, what the hell's going on around him. And I'm not saying that's what they want to do. I'm not saying that's what I want to do. I'm just saying, if you're up for that, that might just happen anyway. give the franchise a shot to get us together. They're getting closer. As abysmal as that offense looked on Sunday, Drake Maye is coming. It's going to happen. You're going to get your wish. I'm excited to watch him. I've been excited since the draft. Okay, trading out the sweet for the salty. We have to talk about Jabrill Peppers. And look, I'm going to go through this quickly. You've probably heard by now that he was arrested on charges of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, strangulation, and possession of a Class B substance, which, spoiler, it seems was cocaine. How do we know that? Well, Peppers told the cops, quote, "It is cocaine." And this all happened Saturday morning, 4:15 a.m. Braintree police responded to a disturbance call outside of his apartment from a female victim, which, pause, in the media, you do not identify the victim for their own protection publicly. So I'm not going to do so here. I have read the police report. There are a lot of details in there that I will share with you now. Some I will not, including her identity. But she is found outside the apartment, interviewed. Peppers comes out, complies with the cops. He's arrested, brought to the police department. They each do their own interviews, and the victim was treated by EMS at the scene, according to the report. Peppers today was arraigned in Quincy District Court, pleaded not guilty. Okay. He was ordered to stay away from the alleged female victim, who claimed that Peppers hit her, choked her, took off her clothing as she attempted to leave and put her outside. And this will get slightly more graphic. So if you want to hit fast forward, I get it. This segment will be over in a little bit. She also claimed that Peppers grabbed her by the neck and smashed her head against the wall before allegedly throwing her down the stairs of his apartment amid an argument. Now, Peppers claimed that he asked the woman to leave several times after this incident and altercation started in his bedroom. He denied putting hands on her. He said she fell down the stairs by herself because she was, quote, intoxicated, end quote. And he told police that the woman made these allegations to destroy his career. Police noted in their report that they did not smell alcohol on her breath, did not observe her being disoriented or in any kind of way intoxicated. Peppers and the woman gave different accounts of how this started in the bedroom and why. His case, bottom line, has been continued to November 22nd. He does not have to appear. But if he is arrested again, the judge warned he can't be held. So his defense attorney, because he's a defense attorney, told reporters after the arraignment, hey, we have evidence, including video, that we believe will ultimately exonerate Peppers. And the Patriots, as you might expect, released a statement that said, "We are aware of this incident. We have no further comment." The NFL did the same thing, because that's every statement after every incident like this. And Gerard Mayo confirmed that he got a call from Peppers Saturday morning after this happened to let them know, the Patriots know, what had occurred. The Patriots let the league know. Mayo talked about it with the team, did not divulge really any details to the media today, except for to say they're going to let this play out. They're going to gather their own information and make a decision in the next couple of days, to which I would say, good for them. Because you might be inclined to season a couple of details that were aggregated here on Twitter or mentioned over there in a news story and believe one side or another. But the bottom line is, even as someone who has read a lot more details that I didn't even share in that police report, the world is not going to change if you just don't have a take on this. Okay, you don't have to take the defense attorney's word about the evidence they supposedly have that could exonerate Peppers, because the next defense attorney to leave an arraignment and say, "Oh, we're is going to be the first." Okay. You also don't have to take the cop's word for it, or prosecutors or her story or whatever it might be. Okay. You can just sit tight and let this play out, because it will, through the legal system and or the league and or the Patriots. What does it mean for Peppers, at least on the field right now? I don't know. He could go on the commissioner's exempt list, because the league can do whatever the hell it wants. And it can claim to have the best interest of the player or the team or whatever. But you and I both know the bottom line is the only thing that matters to the league. And there's some backdoor politics between ownership and the league office. What those are right now, I have no clue. I do know the Crafts, as an old player texted with me today about this, quote, "don't play when it comes to domestic violence." And we'll see, because largely it feels he said, she said. And I'm not inclined to make any kind of judgments. I'm just going to report the news as I did today, writing for the Herald and telling you here in this podcast. And that's where we're going to leave this. So stay tuned. That's about it. However, on a higher note, I came so close to giving you two prize picks to go 2-0. Aaron Rodgers had something like 74 yards at halftime against the Vikings. And were it not for Jalen Polk's heel, which is not to blame him for the overturned touchdown, Jacoby Brissett would have thrown a touchdown, and we would have been over 500 this season with our prize picks of the week. Alas, We did not. But I always tell you, hey, if you want to take the Costanza approach, Callahan's instinct, and just do the opposite, you can win money. There's no better place to win real money than Prize Picks this season, where you just look at player stat projections and you go more or less. Okay. And if you make 4 correct picks, you can win up to 100 times your money. Again, more or less. Passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, every team across the league, most players. They could be on your fantasy team. They could be playing the Patriots. They could be the Patriots. But if you sign up today with code CLNS, you will get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus at Prize Picks. It's guaranteed. You can make these picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports takes or your fantasy team or whatever into real money all season long on Prize Picks. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, speaking of the running game, and for those who are new, typically we don't open with Drake Maye talk and then legal details and Prize Picks picks of the week, which we'll have more later this week. Fitzy, everybody's favorite, is coming on for the episode later this week. We talk offense, we talk defense. If the Patriots win, we hand out some game balls. If they lose, we have a segment we call We Need to Talk. And then we get into What Would NFL Film Say, this fictitious hour-long documentary about the Patriots season, imagining what they would say after this particular game. Last 4 weeks, not been great. But the first one, pretty good when they beat the Bengals back in week 1, which feels like 1991 at this point. Then we're going to do mailbag. I'll have my comments about the whole unfortunate mutiny situation, which just really quickly here. I've been thinking about this for a while because I think my quote-unquote role in this, or asking Mayo a question that specifically mentioned the quote and report, whatever you want to call it, from Evan Lazar, who does an incredible job with his analysis and film breakdowns and draft preparation and covering this team for the team, rankled some people or made it seem like there was some drama between us. And people in the media who know better, because they're ex-beat reporters now running the most popular radio show in Boston, insinuating that I was being a jerk to Evan through this, as opposed to defining what happened to Mayo. So he couldn't say, oh, fake news, outside media outlet. That's just their narrative. Because what made the story bigger was it came from inside the house. The call was coming from inside the house. It was just really disappointing because there's nothing personal between Evan and I. We talked that day. We talked on Sunday. We talked 2 days before this happened. And I wasn't even sure I was going to ask this question about it, which, by the way, had we not, as a beat, that same show would have been making claims like, oh, they're just carrying water for the team. Mayo's got the media right where he wants them. They don't even ask about the biggest story of the day. Not to mention that show also takes more shots at reporters than any other in the entire city. And now they're suddenly concerned about how we're treating each other, as opposed to doing our job in a way that makes Mayo answer the question and deal with the story because it got big because of what had happened. Anyway, that might just be all I have to say in the matter. Let's talk about football. Here's the thing about this game. Patriots lose 15-10. And I wrote up, as I always do, I don't know, 2,500 words about this for the Herald. Gifts, blitz breakdowns, personnel, yada, yada, yada. You know what happened. The Dolphins had a punt blocked. They botched a snap on a field goal. They snapped the ball about 50 million miles over Tyler Huntley's head. Lost a turnover battle, only got 2 sacks, gave up over 150 rushing yards, and still won because they bullied the Patriots. Before they marched 15 plays to the game-winning touchdown, they had 4 drives that were at least 8 plays or longer. They racked up 196 yards. They won time of possession by almost 10 minutes, of which a stat that's getting very overrated because Mayo keeps bringing it up. And that's fine. He can say what he wants. But the point is, the Patriots defense got worn out because after all that, you would get worn out, especially when the new signal caller, Marte Mapu, made his freaking season debut after basically not practicing the last 2 months and is running all the way around from deep safety to split safety position on the edge, inside linebacker, and they just can't hold up. But Miami, a finesse team, bullied the Patriots. Their offense unraveled in the last few minutes. We all saw these dumb mental mistakes. I lit the coaching staff on fire in a way that I don't do because this is more of my speed. Analytics, stats, research, play breakdowns, reasonable football analysis. But this was a joke. And as well as I do, Jacoby Brissett played a large role in this. And I went back and watched the film and I said, yeah, this was not good. But you already know. His accuracy percentage, just his ability to put the ball where it's supposed to go, was only 65%. Okay. And again, he was under pressure 46% of the time. It's terrible. But he, for the second game, I could see the pressure getting to him initially in the first half. that was like, okay, he might finally be breaking. Like we talked about last week. Okay, it's taken 4 games for Brissett maybe to break under all of this pressure, this onslaught of hits and hurries and sacks. He takes 2 sacks in his first 2 dropbacks. That then he's looking immediately for an outlet, like seeing Demario Douglas cross in front of his eyes on a shallow cross route, and he just whips to the right flag and gives it to Ramondre Stevenson, who gets tackled in the flat for nothing. Whereas if he had just looked at the guy who's going in front of his face and thrown it to him in motion, Demario Douglas does the rest, and they get a first down. He eventually did settle in, but the main issue was the Dolphins won the middle of the field, and when Brissett had to go outside, where the Patriots receivers were covered, and he's not as effective, he was 5 of 10 for 55 yards. So it's no surprise that his 2 longest throws, his 2 best completions before the last drive, and he gets 21 yards, and then the 25-yarder to Hunter Henry, because Miami was like, cool, you want to throw it in bounds with no timeouts and seconds left? Great by us. Both of those good throws, his best throws, were to Demario Douglas for 18 yards and then 19 yards. So what the Patriots really need to do here, when we talk about fixes, what's next, and what they can do to help Brissett or Drake Maye, which I really know you want to hear about Drake Maye. We already talked about it, is unlock the middle of the field. And to me, this is where motion and tighter formations and more play action will help, because Jacoby Brissett has 105.3 passer rating over the short middle of the field this year. On Sunday, that was 76.4. So if you want to know how and where and why the Patriots couldn't throw the ball, yeah, it does have to do with protection. Yeah, it does have to do with the receivers who couldn't separate. We're going to get to that later. They didn't win the most valuable piece of real estate there was. They ran the ball really well, which I can't believe it's taken me this long to get to. 7.9 yards per carry, new franchise record, by the way. Yeah, but sure, let's call force rate passes at the end of the game and at the end of the first half. Anyway, this is to say that Jacoby needs to be better. He needs to be more accurate. He needs to settle in against pressure. But he did make multiple completions while actively getting clobbered. And to bring up the point about the pressure, it's hard to access the middle of the field when Nick Leverett is giving up, again, a sack, a holding penalty, and 6 other pressures as the center. Now, again, he's never played center really in the NFL. I think it was 42 snaps he had at center before he got to New England, okay? And he played in Tampa Bay for 3 seasons. He's been a guard. He's mostly been a guard. But Brissett, if he can't get to the middle of the field, and especially the intermediate level, he's in trouble. Now, outside, let's just do the receivers right now. Separation's a real issue. Jalen Polk and KJ Osborne, according to Next Gen Stats, are dead last and second worst by average separation at the catch point. Again, Jalen Polk is dead last. KJ Osborne didn't play, is second worst in average separation at the catch point. They are also among the bottom of the league against man coverage, according to PFF. And once you know, Brissett against man coverage was 5 of 13 for 57 yards versus man-to-man. And over the last 3 weeks, I kid you not, the Patriots only have 10 completions against one-on-one coverage. So half of them came on Sunday. When you watched and go, how the hell is this an NFL offense? Well, that NFL passing offense was much better against man-to-man coverage than you saw against the Jets and against the Niners. Again, 5 of 13 for 57 yards. The receivers are not getting separation. They're also not getting yards after the catch, where Jalen Polk also ranks dead last in the league right now, according to Next Gen Stats, which is not to pile on a rookie. But this is how, again, you lose a game despite winning the turnover battle, blocking a punt, having a field goal fumbled, and then you recover, and applying a decent pressure rate. Defensively, the Patriots got over 30%. It's because you can't convert in the red zone. You can't pass when you need to. All that said, bad game for Alex Van Pelt. They should have run the ball a little bit more. 60% run rate on first down. That was good. Success rate was 47%. It's okay. But it's more than double what it was when you passed the ball. Not to mention, here was the big kicker. The Patriots go to 11 personnel. We talked about this last week. That's their most common personnel grouping. We're going to go with 3 receivers. It's true for most teams. They were successful running the ball 62.5% of the time. When you got Miami to go lighter, because you did the same thing and then ran out them, you were cashing in over and over again. A 62% success rate rushing the ball is outstanding. And they got runs of 24 and 10 and 10, 8 and 6 yards. Okay, passing the ball from those 3 receiver sets, success rate was 26.5. Van Pelt did not dip enough into running the ball there. In fact, he only called 8 runs compared to 26 passes from that personnel grouping in a game that was never outside of 1 score. So they should have run more play action, which again, they finally get this deep shot and Brissett overshoots it. And this was not a good game from him, but you got to access that part of your offense. That's where all of the explosion comes from. If you're not going to stay ahead of the chains, which they did not, because they also had 5 holding penalties, which kind of forced Van Pelt to throw a little bit more. Everyone's going, oh, this 2-to-1 pass to run ratio. And that's accurate. That's a problem. But the context is, well, what would you call in 1st and 20? What would you call in 2nd and 19? Yeah, probably pass, right? But in the key spots, the high leverage spots, he needed to go back to the well of the only thing that was working, which was running the ball, and ideally a little bit more play action. I think that's about it for my offensive notes. We talked about the receivers. We talked about Brissett, the offensive line. I will give a shout out to Demontre Jacobs. Only gave up. I had him down for 3 hurries, but no quarterback hits allowed, no sacks. Michael Onwenu at right guard gave up 2 pressures. Both of them were quarterback hits. Leverett was an issue. Keion White, couple of catches, both for a first down. Great downfield blocking on Ramondre Stevenson's 33-yard touchdown. But that's about it. It's the same old story. Okay, they need to protect better. They need to separate better. You need to do better to help the receivers who are still working all of these isolation routes outside. And again, you can do that with motion. You can do that with switch releases, a lot of different stuff. But the bones of this offense are old. This is a stuck in their ways kind of offense. This is the deal. Let's talk about the defense. Context. Miami's offense stinks without Tua. It's really bad. Really, really not good. You can lead the league in motion. You're still dead last in scoring, which is what they were, and they still are as we talk here today, Monday, getting close to midnight. What the Patriots did, though, without Peppers, now for obvious reasons, though he was on the injury report, and Kyle Duggar, is say, we're going to play with 3 safeties anyway. And what they did is something I thought they should have done against San Francisco a week ago, which is say, okay, we're going to load the box because stopping the run is important to us. We know that's what your offense is about. But we're going to protect ourselves with a little bit more speed on the field so that Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy can't go over the top 5 times for passes that cover 30 yards or more. And Miami had a pretty good explosive play rate, but they did not hurt the Patriots in that way because they played with 3 safeties, Jalen Hawkins, Del Pettis, and Marte Mapu, 67% of the time. They also played zone 70% of the time. And when they did play man, Christian Gonzalez manned up on Tyreek Hill, did an awesome job, gave up just 3 catches, had a pass breakup, obviously the interception. That wasn't against Hill, but Christian Gonzalez is just a stud. Like this guy should be headed toward the Pro Bowl. Basically, it's been 5 games, but the word's out. It should be out. He's earned it. Stud. The other good news about this defensive effort before we get to the bad news, the blitz is back. I kept talking about they're getting killed in high leverage situations because their solution is always pressure, and we're going to bring more. We're going to do this different sim pressure and this and that. They only blitzed 22% of the time, but the Dolphins had a single successful play against it and averaged 1.5 yards per play against the blitz. Pretty good. So this is a big win for DeMarcus Covington. They played a lot of zone, alternated between single high and 2 high. They said, okay, Miami wants the motion all the way around. You got a mobile quarterback in Stu Huntley, who's not a great thrower. He did win the middle of the field, by the way, which is a problem. But we're going to keep all eyes on the quarterback to avoid him from scrambling, to avoid Tyreek Hill from getting by one guy who's in main coverage, unless it's Christian Gonzalez, and then he'll be able to hang one-on-one, and he did. So this is a well-coached game. The issue was the Patriots, again, wore down. 196 rushing yards, 75 offensive plays, time of possession over 34 minutes, and they miss 11 tackles. So it's not just that Kyle Duggar's out, Jabrill Peppers is out, Juwan Bentley's out. That was a big loss and is a big loss. It's also that guys are getting tired, and you saw it. And fatigue, as they say, makes cowards out of all of us. It also makes bad tacklers, and that hurt them. I'll also say the mental mistakes piled up. Keion White had not just a bad game, he had a dumb game. A horse collar penalty, 4 snaps later, followed by a headbutt of Tyler Huntley. That's 30 free yards to a bad offense that then drove for a field goal and got 3 points out of his stupidity, which is not to pick on Keion White. It's just to say you can't do this stuff when you're a bad team trying to scrap out points and stop a bad offense. You were favored here. The reason you lost is because of stuff like that. Now, Keion White and the edge defenders did a better job than they did in San Francisco, keeping the quarterback in the pocket. We've heard this over and over again, and it's important. And Tyler Huntley had 3 rushers for 7 yards, should have been a big win. It was. And part of the solution for that, again, goes to Covington, who said, okay, we're going to play in this 3-4 front most of the time. We're going to put a safety down in the box, which Patriots have done forever. And we're going to give some speed to that front with Marte Mapu there or Jalen Hawkins playing inside linebacker. And we're going to take Jelani Tavai, who's normally in that spot, and flex him out onto the edge. And Tavai was excellent. He had 2 run stuffs in a hurry. He set a consistent edge. The issue was they did have some success running at him, not because he didn't keep that edge, but because Miami routinely got to swallow up Raekwon McMillan, which is to say the Patriots really just missed Juwan Bentley. Like, you can play this 3-4 front. You need thumpers. You need dudes coming to knock the heads off of big, ugly, all due respect, offensive guards who are much heavier than you. And instead, Raekwon McMillan gets washed away like the tide rolling back in. And Miami is going off inside for 16 yards, bouncing outside for 12 over and over again. So there was a lot of good stuff from Marte Mapu again, calling signals, playing in the box, playing on the edge, playing back deep. He made a snap where he robbed 2 different routes, faked a double team in the red zone. But the issue is, over time, teams know, whether you're the Jets, whether you're the Niners, whether you're now the Dolphins, a finesse team, that if you run at the Patriots long enough, they will wear out. And that has to do with depth. It has to do with their style of play. And they did their jobs with 15 points, but this is an issue. And I don't know what the solutions are. Christian Ellis did pretty well. Talk about linebackers and what you can do in fixes like this. I think Tavai on the edge is a good thing. I would try to keep him there more. I like that they're getting back to more 3 safety looks. The zone coverage is good. They're also very good in man. But I don't know if Ellis is a full-time player, because the one big play you did see from him was in dime personnel. It's a 3rd and 13 on that last touchdown drive that Miami had. He can't find his man. And Tyler Huntley goes, oh, this is free money. He snaps the ball. Ellis finds his man, it was Raheem Mostert, and then scrambles over to him. Huntley throws at Mostert, who stops, and Ellis tackles him before the ball gets there, and it's pass interference. It's an automatic first down. It didn't matter that Mostert was 8 yards shy of the line to gain. That's a penalty. They knew it. They got it. And Huntley, as I mentioned, was 11 of 14 for 146 yards over the middle of the field, which sometimes is going to happen when you use a lot of play action. You run a lot of zone coverage, and Miami has all these different motions. And that's what the Patriots should be doing to unlock the middle of the field for Brissett. But that's in addition to the steady Eddie run game. Again, 196 yards are just at you, and 4 drives of 8 plays or longer before you then go 15 yards. Not to mention 4.5 yards of pop going at the edge. They just wore them down. And that happens. And Mayo said it after the game. Nobody loved this. This tweet of mine got ratioed, not at me because of the quote, that fatigue played a factor. He knew it for a fact. It did. It was true. In addition to bad games for guys like Keion White and a couple other for dumb mistakes, but that's what happens. Special teams really quickly. The good. Brendan Schooler. Awesome. This dude, he should make, I don't know what the Pro Bowl is this year. Give him a hotel. Put him in the game. Whatever silly little side games that they're doing right now. That man deserves to be there. He is in the conversation for best core special teamer in the whole freaking league. Bad. Joey Sly went 1 of 2 because he missed an extra point. Not an actual extra point, but he missed from 33 yards away. The bad part, too, Bryce Behringer boomed half of his punts for touchbacks, and only 1 settled inside the 20. The ugly was Josh Uche getting caught as the 12th man on the field during Miami's second drive, which gave the Dolphins new life. It's not only that Josh Uche was on the field when he shouldn't have been. It was that the Patriots coaches did not call timeout at any point as he's scrambling off, understanding this is 4th and 1, and if the refs and the Dolphins catch us, that's a fresh set of downs. No one called timeout. We know what happened next. Thankfully for the Patriots, Christian Gonzalez bailed them out, and that's that. So this leaves us to not game balls, what we need to talk. And I got to tell you, Nick Leverett, this is actually a good talk. This is like, we're not breaking up. I want to stay friends, and I want to keep up with you because the man took full responsibility for a terrible game afterward. And this is a classic case of media coming into the locker room after a game. We don't normally talk to you because you're the backup center. And we're here to talk not because you won the game. You obviously lost, but because you did something and it was bad. And he stood up and he faced the music, and no one's being a jerk to him, but you understand what that feels like. Hey, Nick, you got a second? You can imagine that. Someone wants to talk to you at the end of your worst day at work and everyone's looking at you. He stood and faced the music. That being said, this is the deep part of the piano, the super bass, sad, scary notes. Okay. 7 pressures. Can't have it. Holding penalty. Can't have it. He's got a mark now, not in his back because they're facing him, but on him from every scouting report the Patriots are going to have drawn up by their opponents. Go after 51. Just can't have it. Lucky for him, I think the false start penalty of him allegedly moving the ball forward was complete garbage. So at least he's not doing that. The next one, though, goes to Keion White, who I already hit on for just two asinine penalties. He did have a hurry. That was it. That was cool. Here's the thing. The bar's been raised. You want to be the best pass rusher on this team? You want to be the guy who earns the right to rush whatever way he wants and not be the number one pick? And who's Devon Gottschalk talking about when he's talking about teammates being selfish? Be better than this, because this was not good. But what would NFL film say? Well, they're going to be kind to the Patriots because this documentary is about them. They start, boom, as we talked about last week, very little about the San Francisco game. It's about Pats. It's about Dolphins, AFC East, and rivalry. They go right away with the Gonzalez interception. Gillette comes alive. This is the crucial catch. Maybe they do something about the cancer, not tied to the interception, but you get the whole buildup. It's a sunny scene, beautiful weather. Gonzalez gets the interception, go right to the Ramondre Stevenson touchdown, roar the crowd again, block punch right there. Everything's on fire, but Miami slowly puts this out again and again. Then you get an incompletion from Brissett. Then you get some soundbite on the sideline, and everyone's hanging their heads. And then they've got a shot at the end, despite all this, and it's Jalen Polk's touchdown getting overturned. And you have the end with the big completion to Hunter Henry, and the time runs out. Mayo obviously gives a quote at the end. I don't know what the theme of this particular game is. I mean, like, obviously getting in their own way. It's a young team. That's probably what the highlight is. But we know, as we said at the top, this is just a transition. This game is a bridge. The season is a bridge to the future, but this game is a bridge to Drake Maye. So maybe they even hinted that in the documentary, but we'll see, because we don't know what the next game is going to be about or how they're going to portray it. But for now, that's what NFL Films would say. And maybe they do include Scott Zelek's call of the worst loss since Tom Brady left. Maybe they don't, though. I don't really know. All right, before we get to the mailbag, I want to tell you, if you do want to go to the Patriots game on Sunday against the Texans, first of all, I want to remind you, the Patriots beat the Bills in late October in a game just like this, where another team's coming in. They're much better. You go, I have no idea how in the hell the Patriots can win this game. Well, they beat the Bills. Second of all, ticket prices have never been lower, but they are the lowest at game time. You have a 110% guarantee, which by that I mean, if you find a lower price than what's available at game time, they will credit you 110% of the difference for whatever ticket you found. And this is with all-in pricing. So when you go to game time and you look up, how much are the tickets for Pats Texans or Pats Jets later this month, whatever game you want to go to, concert, show, whatever, no pesky fees at the end. It's all up front, right there with game time picks, with filters out, all the fluff to only show you incredible deals and great seats. So you don't have to waste the time sifting through thousands of tickets. Oh, and they give you a seat view. So if you want to weigh what it looks like sitting over here behind the end zone or the 20-yard line on the opposite side, you can do that with Seat View and everything else that Game Time has to offer. So go to Game Time now. Or better yet, download the Game Time app, because here you go, $20 from me to you. Create an account. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account at Game Time and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. It's actually mail time. So we're going to go on with the mailbag. Here we go. Oh, that's my film review. That's not going to be very helpful. Here we go. Mark, quote, I need an explanation of how Elliott Wolf thought Alex Van Pelt was the man to tutor Drake Maye. They should have brought in a guy to develop a system for Maye, not a dude trying to force your only hope to play his antiquated, ineffective system. I think what he means is like just a guy who can build a system around Maye as opposed to what obviously the Patriots have right now. So just like anywhere else in the league, Mark, guys are going to hire their friends, the people that they know. And you're familiar with this because you root for a team where the guy hired his sons. And this isn't to knock Brian Belichick or Steve Belichick. I think both did and are doing decent jobs. The safeties were among the highlights of that game on Sunday, right? That's what Brian Belichick, it's a position he's coaching. But Alex Van Pelt, on paper, and I said it at the time, so this is not revisionist history, this is not anything but what I'm telling you right now, is a guy who connects with people. He develops players. Even Josh Freeman, you want to go back to his days at Tampa Bay, readying 5 quarterbacks at Cleveland. And I get you don't want to hear that right now because the Patriots stink and he's at the charge and he's calling plays. But that aligned with what the Patriots need in a rebuild. Who can connect with the modern player in the way that the old staff, the old head coach was not at the end, which is the same thing with Gerard Mayo's message, and know someone in the building. That was Elliott Wolf. And I told you on the flip side of, okay, he'll develop and he'll connect, and that's great. The system is old, as you just said. Like, you need to win in isolation. And this isn't to say that what the Dolphins do is a whole lot better than the Patriots, because, again, they're last in scoring. Motion is not this magic elixir. But you do need to establish or be good at certain things for the whole offense to work. And right now, though there are encouraging signs, the outside zone, a little bit more play action, they're not good at those things. So yes, it's talent, it's coaching, it's the system, but that's why he's here. That's why I think this will get better over time, the type of coach that he is. But I do think they will need to tweak certain things about the system, and there are to make improvements. How big those improvements are, that will be the key. And I know someone else is going to ask about his job security a little bit later. So moving on, Carlos. Hey, Andrew, would you expect Jabrill Peppers to play ahead of his November court date, or is there a chance he gets placed on some sort of reserve list? I mean, there's a chance for anything. And I'm laughing not because it's an unserious situation. It is. But again, the league can do what it wants. They invented the commissioner's exempt list. This was nothing that was just inherited. Okay. They can make up whatever rule they want. Now, Peppers is not such a name like a quarterback or a high profile running back or receiver or someone on your fantasy team that, they really have a ton of people paying attention to this and can make it go away. But it is a serious situation. And I know the Patriots, at least their history with ownership are going to take it seriously. We just don't know the facts yet. If I had to bet, I do think Peppers will play at some point, but I don't know. And that's my point to you. We don't know. So just have to sit in the uncertainty and the non-judgment of that. As boring and maybe frustrating to you as it is, it's just where we are right now, Monday, October 7th. Jeffrey, if the Bengals lose 2 more games before the trade deadline, and you're Elliott Wolf, lucky me, what are you offering for T. Higgins? Or are you passing until the offseason? I'm passing until the offseason. I had the money. I had the cap space. What they would want surely is a young player and or a draft pick. My only trade assets right now are going to be a receiver that they probably don't want in return, which would be Kendrick Bourne or Tyquan Thornton, who's supposedly on the block. And let me tell you, he's going to stay there. Or KJ Osborne, who doesn't separate. And Jonathan Jones or Joshua Uche. That's it. And I want my draft picks. So I'll wait in a season. I don't really care about wins and losses to the degree that most teams do. And if I do want T. Higgins, who personally I don't think Jeffrey, is a number one. He's got a history of hamstring issues. He's a big, tall dude. There's a chance where I could see them making an offer like they did with Calvin Ridley and getting outpriced. Maybe because he wants to go elsewhere or because at some point paying a guy like that just isn't worth it. I think folks in Tennessee would tell you that too. So it's not a slam dunk for me that you just throw a bag at T. Higgins. Like I don't think he's a 1B. It doesn't mean you shouldn't get better receivers. I'm not saying that, but I'm not offering anything now. And I don't think it's a slam dunk. The Patriots not only get him, but even offer him the most money that he could see in free agency, which is a bummer. I get it. Don't get me wrong. I'd be looking at trades if you really want to take something away from this. That's what I'm looking at if I am Elliott Wolf next spring. Valiant Patriot, to what extent are we too reserved in the way we move the ball? We don't look like a team that wants to score until we're behind. I know they say it's trying to not lose before you try to win, but I think we're seeing it to the extreme. A lot of exclamation points. Thoughts? Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, that's part of living with an offensive line, though, that invites danger and not like, oh my God, my quarterback's going to get hit. Invites negative plays, invites holding penalties. Again, they had 5. Holding penalties and sacks typically kill drives. That's life with an offensive line. You're not going, we'll do a 7-step drop, we'll have a flea flicker, or we'll have this, deep post corner that takes so long to develop. You can't take those shot plays with that kind of offensive line. So they're trying to balance that and navigate it. It's not to excuse. It's been a horrible offense. But I do think the time that they have tried to take those shot plays, they've been well defended. They've been totally predictable. And they don't know what to expect, as their tight ends coach Bob Bicknell told me on Friday. Like the way they chart coverages from defenses when you're trying to say, okay, if we get them in a blitz here, maybe we'll have a shot. Or they're in single high coverage and we run a deep over and that'll distract the safety. And then we have a post behind it. Okay, when are they in single high? Oh, 33% of the time. And they look at this chart and it's like, oh, well, this isn't helpful. It's like 25% of 4 different coverages. And most of them are good against these shot plays. So they need to get better either at scouting the other team or themselves because they have taken the shots and it's just not working. So they are conservative. I understand it to an extent. I would say to your question directly, it's not an extent that I have such a big issue with because even playing conservatively, they're dealing with issues that you would exacerbate or further invite if you played a little bit more aggressively. They are trying to win. They're just trying to win their way, understanding they have a small margin for error. So it's like stepping out on a high wire and going very slowly. Like, that's what it is. I'm not going to run across. I'm just trying to get across. So that's what they're doing, very slowly, step after step after step, because they know, again, margin for error is very, very small. Sox Nation, which player on offense do you think may benefit the most from Drake starting? I would say Pop Douglas. I keep calling for more targets for him, and it just hasn't happened. And we talk about Brissett as best over the middle of the field, passer rating over 105. He's still just not getting the targets. And I think whether it's because, um, Drake might be able to access that a little bit better or be on the move, um, because you would think maybe it'll be a downfield receiver. He'll attack. He's got a bigger arm, a stronger arm. But Tyquan Thornton's not even playing anymore. Jalen Polk is a downfield receiver, but he's not separating. And Jacoby's giving him chances downfield. He's just not making plays for the most part. So I think it is Pop Douglas because Drake's numbers also jumped significantly in training camp when Pop Douglas came back to full contact and was playing in 11-11. So I'm going to go with Pop. Kenny, it might be a league-wide issue, but it does seem like injuries have been piling up the past few seasons for the Patriots. There are a lot of reasons why this might be. But do you see anything with their current strength and conditioning coaches that might be contributing to this? Great question. I have a bad answer. I don't know. And it's to say that before I opine on this, I would want to have some serious data and not just injuries that they've had or number of games missed. It's what are the measurable differences between what they were doing in training camp now and their workouts in past years. And I was at every single training camp practice. I could list a couple of things, but off the top of my head is not a good enough measurement to give you the answer that you deserve. So what I would say is, I don't think, and I think I talked about this last week, the plan is all that different from what they were doing before under Moses Cabrera, who's now gone, because Duran Mayo, Draw's brother, now the head of strength and conditioning, along with Jim Whalen, who does some medical training stuff, and they've got one sports science guy left, I think. They're using the same playbook that Moses left. It's just like DeMarcus Covington taking over the defense from Bill. You'll make tweaks, but like the basis of what they're doing is still there. So I think it is partly bad luck. I think you do see teams who take it easy in camp and the preseason still have bad injuries, like you alluded to, league wide. But it is scary the way that the Patriots have been this banged up. And not all injuries are created equal, right? Like you deal with injuries at MetLife Stadium where that turf is notoriously bad, non-contact injuries. That's not because you ran an extra couple of laps back in July. It's just because that's a very unforgiving turf. And one bad twist to the ankle or knee or whatever it might be can cost you a season. So I don't have a hard answer for you yet. The longer we go into the season, though, I will be able to have better numbers to say, okay, we can only have a bigger sample for the Patriots, but a bigger sample relative to the rest of the league. And that's stuff that we can really sink our teeth into, as opposed to week 5 being like, oh, well, how many other teams have lost like 2 or 3 captains in injury? Okay, probably not many, but give it time and they might catch up. And then what's the reason? I don't know. All right, I got to go faster. Matthew, if you were running the Texans, wouldn't you just sit Nico Collins in week 6? Yes. Yes, I would. And I think he will. D'Amico Ryan said today that Nico Collins has a hamstring, and hamstrings usually take a couple of weeks. So I do not expect to see Nico Collins against the Patriots on Sunday. Chris, can you see Alex Van Pelt being a one-and-done OC? The play calling is a little underwhelming at times. Yes, I can. And it's not because I believe he will be a one-and-done or because I think he deserves to be a one-and-done. It's because while it absolutely has been underwhelming and the Patriots have been outcoached on offense the last couple of weeks, games, whatever, the coordinators go before the head coach does. So if Mayo's pressured to do something or feels compelled to do something and provide, hey, we're making changes, we're trying different things, he's not going to fire himself. He's going to fire that guy, especially if he's in charge of an offense that right now is scoring fewer points than Matt Patricia did. It's true. It's a fact. He has less talent, let's be clear, and some other challenges. But, yeah, it's not good. Jordan, is it fair to blame Kraft for this mess? He was the one who promised a head coach job to Mayo, which hurt our chances of bringing in a competent GM and OC. Yeah, sure. I mean, like my default, and I did this in the column I wrote Sunday, is to blame the guy at the top. Right now, the guy at the top of football operations on Sundays is Drake Maye. So everything else under his purview goes back to him. Kraft, sure. I would say I would not pass full judgment on Drake Maye in the first 5 games as a head coach. But as I noted many times, he only had 5 years in coaching. It's great he was here as a player. It's great he was a captain and a great leader. And I think ultimately, by the bet, I called him a worthy gamble. Again, you can look this up at the time. It will work out. But right now, his growing pains are coinciding with Alex Van Pelt's as a play caller, DeMarcus Covington's as a play caller, the worst roster in the league at their disposal. It's going to look bad. It has. They've cost him some games, and it could get worse. So, yeah, if you want to bring a blame Kraft, go right ahead. He's above Mayo. They can never say that they hired the best candidate available because they didn't ask around, and that goes for him and Elliott. But you can also believe in one or both of them, and still be upset with Krafts and say that. And that's pretty much where I land. Last one. Why did you personally call it Lazar in the Mayo press conference? Is there a grudge there? It sounded personal. So I said it earlier. No, absolutely not. Hell no. It's actually how I responded to Dave on Twitter. And this is a case of, at least I say as I hear myself talk, the more you address something, like, oh, I don't care, it's not that big of a deal. And the more you talk about it, you're arguing against yourself. Like the people just believe, like, okay, if you didn't care, you would stop talking. But I want to repeat that there were 3 reasons why this became a story. Number one, which again, Emmett has walked back, and this is it was obvious to me. So that's why this has become just mind-numbing in so many different ways. The word mutiny is a wow word. Okay, like that's big. That means overthrowing leadership. That means players going, Mayo, you're done. You can leave. We're in charge now. That's what that means. Okay. People misspeak. People step in it. People have bad reports, bad takes. I know, and I brought this up to you a few weeks ago, lost my mind on TV saying, play Joe Milton ahead of Drake Maye. I didn't mean it. I stepped in it. Happens to everyone. Evan stepped in it. Okay. And number 2, it came from a team person. So the call was coming from the side of the house. You never really hear in this kind of way, even if you do get carried away in a kind of rant. And it's not only just from inside the house, it's from a very well-respected analyst who, again, does a great job with film analysis, breaking down scheme and techniques in the draft and everything I said earlier. A guy I would want to read as a fan and do read, and had done a ton of good work for this podcast network that I share, CLNS. And he was here before going to Patriots.com. But it was not only a team person. It was not only a respected team person, but it was on a team-produced podcast. And again, people who work for the teams, which this is something the folks at Felger and Maz know because, again, they were in media. But there's a line drawn that I don't think most fans know, or some don't. So don't take this as me, talking down to anybody, because I never, ever, ever, ever want to do this. Is to say that when we're all in the same room at the press conference, there are certain things that team reporters or writers, and that's if you work for the Patriots or the Red Sox or the Celtics or the Marlins or the Avalanche or whatever, are never going to ask about, because they are basically forbidden from talking or writing about things that bring a negative light to the team off of the field. And this is where I give a ton of credit to Evan for doing his film analysis and always being honest of what he thinks. Like in the Patricia era, in the way that we were writing very similar things, and he had some great nuggets about like, what the f- going on here? There's no identity. Doing that in that market and under a Belichick regime takes some guts. And he did it time and time again, was critical of the on-field product. But you will notice, not only did the team scrub what he said about a mutiny, something off of the field that brought a negative light to it from the video and the audio, but if you go to Patriots.com today, you will not find the number 1 Patriots story on that website. Jabrill Peppers being arrested and facing assault charges. And as a reporter on the outside, whether you work for a TV station or a newspaper or a podcast or whatever, that's not employed, not paid by the team, I have to write everything, good or bad, and cover it. And this is not due to me having more courage or a defect in Evan's professional character or personal to anyone who works in a team setting. That's just the gig. That's the job. And so that's what drew so much attention to this, is that, okay, it's a team person who should know they're in the building. They're also not really allowed to do this kind of stuff. Okay. Just like you never saw anything at Patriots.com about Jack Jones bringing guns to the airport, and certainly not Robert Kraft going down to Florida and getting tied up in what was then believed to be a sting operation for sex trafficking, which of course it wasn't, but you never saw any of that because you will never see any of that. Okay. But the reason I asked that question is to get ahead of powerful people who, when they're confronted with uncomfortable truths in a press conference of like, hey, someone inside your organization said there's a mutiny, the default, whether you're in sports or politics or whatever, is to go, that's bullshit. Oh, it's a media narrative. It's fake news. That's on you. So I'm thinking, okay, what might Mayo say to this? As a powerful person, the head of an organization who's got to deal with this uncomfortable fact, which sucks. It's no fun. Again, I was talking with the reporters beforehand, we even give like voice to this because Evan since walked it back. It's the biggest story in the city. Talking to every radio station, a TV station. None of us have any kind of evidence or inkling that this is true. People are also in the locker room every single day. And then it's like, well, if we don't say anything about it, then you come off like you're carrying water for the team. Like, let's just see what Mayo says. Okay, fine. So I get ahead of this and say, okay, this is not outside media. This is a team employee and a team produced podcast. Has anyone come to you and said they want new leadership? And Mayo gives an answer. And despite the way I phrased it, he goes, well, that's journalism for you. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not. It's a team employee. So I just want to know what someone from the team thinks. Okay? And it's nothing to do with Evan. This is not to punish or rub salt. Nothing I said or could have said would have changed the facts of what happened. I'm not his boss. I'm not related to anything. Had they asked my advice, I would have said, let it go. We all screw up. Okay? But Mayo had to deal with this. The Patriots had to deal with this. So I followed up and reiterated, okay, well, it's not fake news. It's not journalism for you because they don't do, journalism in the deep reporting sense. And I say that as someone who for most of my career has not really done deep journalism. It's been a lot of writing about games and relaying stuff from press conferences, but not digging behind the scenes and what seemed like Evan had done by saying this. And again, we all step in it. And it's fine. And we just had this stupid swirl around the team that led to an even stupider football game and now some really serious charges. But anyway, this is my podcast. So I talk about it here with you. And Shirley just argued against myself or however long we've been talking about it. But that'll do it. Patriots are 1-4. We will have a more lighthearted show later this week with Fitzy from WEI. And I can't wait for that. We're going to talk Pats Texans, whatever else goes on in this week. And maybe Drake Maye. Who knows? I actually don't know if Fitzy wants Drake Maye to start. Anyway, I will leave that for him to tell you. I'm going to go to bed and do Toucher and Hardy in the morning where they might even bring this up again. And if so, we'll just keep marching on. Have a great week. Chat with you soon.